All right, there's still some people filtering in from other meetings, so we'll give it a couple minutes. We have quite the heat wave here in Grand Rapids. It's saying 24 degrees today. Wow, what a shift. Still lots of snow we're buried under, though. Hope you all are staying warm and safe out there. And Nicole's over in Oregon. They're having freezing rain. How wild.
No school for a week. Trapped inside, slowly going a little bit loony.
I can't help but talk about the weather because I'm just so interested that we're all in different parts of the state. So every time I hop on something, I have to mention it's just so different everywhere. Okay, I think we have most everybody. Thank you all for joining today. Happy you all are here. It's great to see your faces again. And welcome to the January Learning Community for Apprenticeship Grantees. We're excited you're here today. I want to start with a brief review of our agenda. So Christina's going to share her screen. Thanks, Christina. So you're going to notice a pretty strong theme in today's agenda of gathering and sharing data and connecting and sharing with each other, as we know that that's a really important piece of these environments that we create. We'll start with a poll, which I'm going to introduce shortly. Then we're going to move into some small group breakouts with a debrief to follow. And then we'll share the data that we gathered on your responses to the mentor-teacher programming questions we asked you all within the December bi-monthly progress meetings. Then we'll move into another poll to gather a bit more data with a breakout and a debrief to follow that. And of course, we'll close out with sharing some helpful and important reminders to you all, as we always do, and the feedback survey that we've really appreciated you all filling out to give us more insight so we can integrate improvements and updates to this space. All right, so we can take the slides down as I introduce this first poll. Thanks, Christina, for giving that visual for everybody. All right, so as you're all aware, and as we talked about at the November Learning Community meeting, the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, the Office of State Apprenticeship Expansion, has published an RFP for folks to respond to. And we have learned in the time between then and now that there's a number of you all who are planning and preparing to apply for this opportunity, which is super incredibly exciting. ECIC is, we know we wanted to communicate to you what our plan is with this whole response. And we're letting you know here that we're really happy as the Innovation Fund team to be named in your proposals as thought partners, as a supportive force in any proposals. Of course, you all know we're invested in continuing to support this really important workforce innovation. We're already going to be working with the design grantees under the U.S. Department of Labor earmark funded work. We don't expect to receive any funding as a result of any thought partnership where we're named on any of your proposals, but instead to just continue to integrate what we've learned and be that early childhood piece and connector. And then also to align with the work we'll plan to do with design grantees with the U.S. Department of Labor funds. So again, like I said, we welcome the opportunity to thought partner. We're willing to write letters of support or letters of commitment. Just let us know, reach out to us. Our role, and you all know this, at ECIC, we continue to raise policy level issues. We want to bolster all the advocacy efforts we can and align on this workforce strategy because we know how important this work is. Given all of that, obviously ECIC is not preparing a response to the RFP, but instead telling you all that we're more than willing to be thought partners and supports on this work. Though because that is our position currently, ECIC's Innovation Fund leadership is requesting a more full understanding of how many of you all are planning to apply for this opportunity so that we can be prepared to support and align strategy in support of the workforce. So with that said, I'm going to launch an anonymous poll for you all to respond to. You'll see it once I launch it. It will be asking you specifically, and you might be able to see now, to indicate your organization's plan to respond to LEO's SAE grant RFP in support of the early care and education workforce. What we know is that there's other industries that you can apply for in support of for this RFP. We're asking specifically about early care and education. Obviously, this is ECIC's lane. So please indicate here if yes, you do plan to respond, no, the organization you're representing does not plan to respond, or the org you're representing is not planning to directly be the lead applicant, but is partnering. That'll help us understand what kind of support we should offer you all and what kind of strategies we should pull out and align. Give it just a few more a minute or so more for everybody to be able to participate. And then I'll share or end the poll. Looks like about 80% of you have participated. Thank you. The other piece that this helps us to know, I think, as a whole group, is what does the demand look like that we are sharing with Leo? We learned when Kevin and Scott came to speak with us in November that the ways that funding gets funneled to certain industries is via demand. So this is a pretty big piece of communication in how we're demanding these funds be dedicated to early childhood. Okay, we're still at the same level of participation. About 80% of you all have participated. Thank you. So I'm going to end the poll now and just share the results so we can all see the level of interest and demand that we're going to be communicating as a collaborative team here. 8 out of 12 of you are saying yes. 3 out of 12 of you are saying we're partnering, and just a couple are saying no. And of course, 12 of 15 of you responded. So thank you all for responding to that. ECIC looks forward to being a support as however we can to you all in your proposals. Of course, I've already said we're happy to be named as a thought partner. We're not expecting any funding or line items to be dedicated to us whatsoever, but please do reach out and let us know how we can be most supportive. You can reach out directly to me. I can connect with our director. Of course, you can reach out to Nicole and or Christina as well, or as always, technical assistance at ecicforkids.org. All right, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nicole.
All right, so we're gonna move into the next part of our agenda, and we definitely listen to your feedback, and we know that you love connecting, and so we're gonna start off the rest of this meeting with you all connecting in small groups. So we're gonna be focusing this conversation around mentorships. We're gearing up for Bank Street coming in and focusing on mentorship program development, and the question that we want you to focus on is, how are you using, or how are you planning to use, the development of a mentorship program to recruit childcare employers? So one of the things we've been talking about is how to get childcare employers invested in an RAP, and how do we get them seeing this as a benefit to their work. And so some examples of that could be like as a pitch to support leadership development internally, increased use of available supports among staff, which will increase wellness overall, or just, providing opportunities for growth for those rock star classroom teachers that they have in their classrooms, just as examples. So we'd love for you to go into your small groups. You're going to follow these instructions here. And then when we get done with that, we'll have a report out. And then Christina is going to give you some instructions on how we're going to do the report outs.
Thank you, Nicole. So while you all are in small groups, we ask that you please go ahead and identify somebody who's a recorder that can just jot down some key highlights from your group's conversation. And then also a reporter, so somebody who would be willing to maybe share some of those key highlights amongst the group. We're also going to be using Menti again. Some of you may be familiar from our last meeting. We use the same format where I'm going to post the link in the chat that you just click on and can write out those key highlights as well, just so everyone as a group can kind of see some of those responses. So I'm going to post it in the chat here.
right, and then Sable will get us into our rooms. And you all have 20 minutes to connect, and then when we come back and report out, we have 10 minutes allocated for our debrief. So we have a good amount of time to do this. And here they're coming back. Oh my goodness. Welcome back, welcome back. Hope you all enjoyed your time together. We love that you love connecting with each other in these small groups to have the conversation. So powerful. And so now we're excited to see what you all had to talk about. And we're going to use the Menti platform to be able to do that. Just like we did at our last learning community, when we used the Menti, we'll make sure that we share out this collective information with you in our follow-up so you have it. So Christina, do you want to share the Menti, and we'll see what we got going on so far. We've got a couple of responses already. So, you know, for those, the reporters or the recorders, go ahead and keep putting them in there, and we'll wait until they populate. But let's go ahead and get started chatting about what we already have in here. So the question, just as a reminder to ourselves, was, so how is your team planning on using the development of a mentorship program to recruit childcare employers? And for those of you who have shared already in the Menti, do you want to report out on what you shared so that we can talk about it a bit more?
Yeah, I'll go first. So mine's that first one. And when I said tech support there, I really meant technical support, but I ran out of characters. So I was like, oh, we're going to have to figure this one out. But basically, we were talking about it was a really interesting group because it was myself and then other Michigan Works representatives. And it's really, we talked a lot about how we're coming at this problem from two different directions, like having a lot of like technical knowledge and understanding about apprenticeships like Michigan Works has. And then a lot of like early childhood understanding, you know, that, and we're both sort of gaining a lot from one another. And so in terms of like developing the program and recruiting employers, Michigan Works is able, does in fact offer like a lot of that technical support, and that helps employers to feel comfortable getting their feet under them with an apprenticeship program. And so and then I was able to talk about how at Childcare Network, one other way that we support. So we work with our Michigan Works on behalf of the childcare providers, sort of. And so we're able to provide a little bit more of that like close understanding about the mentorship program and really understand what it is that the mentors are offering. And we're in a unique position to be able to bring in mentors and allow them to get some training hours alongside their apprentices, to guide them a little bit more on maybe things about like what they might be able to do in the classroom, very like early childhood specific. But as I was saying, we talked about how we learn very much from each other. And so we felt like that's kind of, we're each strengthening those different areas and learning from each other how to do it.
Definitely. Thank you, Sebastian. That's so powerful. I definitely feel that too. I've been learning so much about it, and that's wonderful. All right, who's next?
So that would be me. My group was two folks from the same Michigan Works office, and then another person from a resource center. And we talked a lot about how our understanding of the mentor's role really played into the amount of support that we have for the mentors. That as long as the mentor, the identified mentor, has a strong understanding of early childhood, they're going to be successful, but that relies on the employer's selection of the mentor being, thoughtful and not just out of necessity, like this is the only person left that I can identify, sort of thing. And so what we have right now in place is onboarding conversations for the mentors, identifying like what the role is. And then they're involved in check-in meetings throughout the program. The check-in meetings for the apprentices, we're including the mentors in both like 2 of the programs. And then it sounds like aside from my team, everyone is pretty happy with the amount of support that the mentors are getting within their programs. And we're looking for more ways to provide benefits for the mentor. And we've talked about this in our one-on-one meetings. So I know that's not a surprise for you. But I was really interested to hear the way that the other organizations are also like concerned with the amount of attention that employers are paying to the progress in the program and how that's going.
Thank you, Bonnie. Who's next? The training of the mentors with my registry.
Well, I was in that group. I'm also from Child Care Network, so I feel like Sebastian and Bonnie have shared so much already. But and I think Bonnie had just mentioned, yes, our mentors are invited to participate in the training that we offer to our apprentices, and those training hours are also logged in my registry, so that is an added bonus. I'm trying to see what else was added in there. Carrie, did you add that in there? Who added that in there?
I did. Just to make sure our group had stuff in it.
I put the one about the mentor teachers in my registry only because I wanted to build on that too, Carrie, and that is we do that as well. We have Regina, oh my God, I can't say her name. Anyways, I'm getting old. But anyway, yes, so that's a great place to embed the trainings for folks to get the CEUs. I love it. So awesome work. Child Care Network, thanks.
Are you, so I know that like we put our stuff into my registry, but are you guys using existing my registry courses, and would you share what they are?
The same here. Rochelle, that's her name. Oh my God. Rochelle McKissick. So she's a trainer. So a lot of the stuff ends up in my registry. So she's actually our mentor teacher coordinator. And so she does a training in person and also offers it as an option for virtual and or pre-recorded or recorded. And then folks, when they complete it and complete some assignment that she offers, then they get credit for it in my registry. So she's a great source to connect a lot of these pieces. And she is the owner of what's called Education Beyond the Classroom. It's an LLC. She's been in early childhood for 20 plus years at all levels. So she's really good.
Yeah, thank you, Dick, on that. It just we're talking ECE here right now. So just like when Michigan Works starts talking about Osmus or other things that we're like, huh? I wonder if Michigan Works people are like, my registry. And so, you know, that is something that would be important for our Michigan Works folks to know about, right? Because our employers have to have their staff receiving a certain amount of professional development credits through my registry. And if this is a way that can support them in receiving those credits, that's a win that they don't have to think about. So it's a huge selling point. So as a Michigan Works agency, being able to speak to that will be incredibly beneficial in the recruitment. And you have ECE people here to help you with all of that. So just reach out to any of us and happy to help. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next part of the agenda, which doesn't take us too far away from where we currently are. Again, getting ready to interface with Bank Street College of Education, focusing on the mentorship programs. We want to review the collective responses that we got from you through our December progress meetings when you asked us, or when we asked you these questions. And really, we want to just flash the collective responses up here to you to each of those questions. We want to make sure that you feel that your responses are represented And if there's anything that's missing or needs to be added, that we give you time to kind of put that back out to us. So we have 2 questions. We have this one right here. This is just talking about biggest needs or considerations around developing your mentorship program. So this is what we're prepared to present them with. And how do we feel about these collective responses? Are we missing anything? Does anything need to be added? And if you just want to shoot a thumbs up once you've kind of processed it, we can go to the next question, or a thumbs down, or. We got a thumbs up from Wanda. Thanks, Wanda. Getting thumbs up. Okay. And if there's anything that's missing, you can put it in the chat. You can shoot us an email, or you can mention it at some point in this meeting as well. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay. So as you've implemented programs, what has worked well for you and what has been a challenge? So again, just wanting to make sure that you feel your work is represented in these responses. Thank you, Lane. Thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, Dick. All right. Okay, so let's move on to this next slide, which I'm excited about. So, so this is a collect. So when we were doing our progress meetings with you all, we heard from a lot of you that are like, it would be really nice to have like best practices, or, you know, or can we start developing a best practice? And it came up around the conversation around mentorship programs. So that's where we've kind of started in creating this list. And this is really based on what you're saying you're doing and why it's important. And so this is collectively what it looks like for this group. And again, I would just pose it to you. Do you feel like this represents your best practices? Is there anything missing? And again, these slides will go out to you in follow up. And so if afterwards you want to process a little bit, or you think of something, this is an open-ended conversation that we want to continue to build on.
So I guess I do have a question where it says mentors provide in-classroom support daily. I guess I just have a general question about what that means.
And I welcome anybody else to speak on this. But my understanding is that it means that mentors are also employees of the organization hosting the registered apprentice, and that mentor is working with them while they're having on-the-job training experiences, so that there can be coaching and correction and mentorship as the on-the-job training is taking place.
Yeah, that is definitely part of the apprenticeship program, but the in the classroom support isn't necessarily a place that the mentor would be with.
Yeah, not all of the mentors are in the same classroom as their apprentices, but I do think it's probably ideal if they are.
So the mentor should already have the education level behind them before they're in the mentorship.
No,
position.
I'm sorry. I think not the training classroom, but the classroom with the children.
Oh, got it. Yeah, that makes sense then.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Two
Now I
different
got
languages,
it.
right?
ECE
Right, Wanda,
brain.
two different
Yeah.
languages, yes.
Right. Okay.
Look
There are
at
multiple
us.
classrooms. There are. That's
There
right.
are. Yes. I'm so glad we had this. And this is why this is so important, right? Because we were passing ships in the night on that. Perfect. Thank you, Wanda, for bringing that up. And thank you, Bonnie, for recognizing what was happening.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we feel? Okay, great. All right, lovely. Well, again, like I said.
Nicole, I'm sorry, I do have one. I just I can't talk today. Just give me some clarity on mentors receive transferable academic credit for their services. Did someone just talk about that, or did I?
We haven't talked about that yet. So the mentors receiving transferable academic credit for their services through the conversations during our progress meetings was something that was lifted up as a best practice or something that our grantees were trying to achieve. Anybody who's working on that want to speak to it a little bit more for April?
I know we've, GST has had a few conversations with local community colleges about at least looking at that, My Registry to give mentors credit so they can further their education if they choose to do so. Like I said, it's only been 2 meetings, so we don't have a lot of headway on that, but it's definitely a conversation that we've been having.
Thanks. That's would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and back in our world, with the mentor teachers, it's kind of building on that same thought. You know, some of them are working on their masters. It's like, look, just take this as that class, that project you have to do for whatever class in terms of supervision and coaching, and make this work so you're not doing extra work for that class. But maybe at some point, I like what's being considered is how that can turn into actual credit, a credential or credit that's recognizable or recognized to get people at that next level, especially with licensing. Because some of our teachers someday want to be a director. Okay, so they have to take that admin class at the community college right now. It's like, look, if you've been doing this for 10 years, why take that admin class? If you can check all the boxes and say, you know what, I already know what I need to do. Don't make me go through a class just because. So again, a lot of this stuff can connect to My Registry because it's actually recognized. I mean, it's a validated whatever. I mean, system to manage this understanding skills. Yeah, blah blah blah. Anyways, all good. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Dick. And Darren, are you off mute? I think I see you.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to what you see in like teachers who host student teachers. And they usually get a choice from that academic program as either getting a small stipend, 1 to 2 graduate credit hours if their bachelor's degree in a graduate program. So there's usually a couple of options there that I see some parallels.
Yeah, and thank you, Darren, for that. Thank you, everybody, for helping us out with that. You know, and again, the idea is that we're starting to identify best practices through your work. So maybe they're not happening yet, but this is where we would like to go. And you know, this is specifically focused on mentorship programs, but wouldn't it be cool if we could do this across all the different areas of registered apprenticeship and kind of what that looks like? So be thinking about that too, like what are other content areas through this registered apprenticeship process that we could maybe start identifying some collective best practices, and we'd be happy to continue, you know, gathering, facilitating all of that. So thank you all. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next part of our agenda. So we can take this slide down for now, Christina, and we're going to go back into small groups. Since you guys love chatting so much, and you're actually going to go back into the same groups because it's just way too complicated for us to mix and match during the meeting. So we're, you know, about halfway through this grant project. You know, we have spending reports and those kind of things coming up, but we thought it would be really important at this point in the grant to give you all time to talk about the strategies that you're using and have in place for ongoing communication, project updates, feedback, you know, all of that from your apprenticeship partnership. So, you know, you all had listed apprenticeship partners on your grant. And so now we want to talk about how are we engaging those partners in meaningful ways, because it is a sustainability strategy. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to follow the same process that we did last time. Christina, I don't know if you want to give the instructions or we just want to say we're going to do it the same way with the mentee and the report out. Okay, perfect. And we'll get going. So Sable, go ahead and send everybody to their groups. We'll put the question in the chat, the mentee link in the chat, and then you want to have somebody reporting out. And then
Nicole, just for clarity, how long do folks have?
Oh, that is a really great question. Let me double check and look at that. I believe we are working on 20 minutes.
Okay, great. I just put the question in the chat.
That is correct. We're going to do the same amount of time.
Great.
able to talk to others who are in scale up grants and learn from each other. So thank you for
Good.
allowing the time and building that in.
We love to hear it. Woohoo.
Yeah. We feel great about it too. So we're glad you
Yeah.
still like it. I get nervous a little bit time when we build out the agenda, especially this one. I was like, okay, we're going to have multiple small groups. I'm like, do they still like small groups after they've had multiple small groups? So it's good to hear feedback on that. All right. Do we have everybody back? All
Looking
right.
at you, Sable. Yeah, okay.
Looks like
So,
it. Okay.
want me to introduce this poll, Nicole?
Yes.
Okay.
Go for it.
So now that you guys have had your time to spark your conversations all about, oh, there's some people returning. Don't want to get started without everybody. Okay. Now that you all have had some conversations amongst each other around engaging and convening, communicating with your apprenticeship partnership members and the organizations you all have rounded up to support this work, we are going to launch another poll to gather some more data. You've had time to qualitatively discuss some things. We're going to collect some quantitative data from you all on how often that's happening. So I'm going to launch a poll now that you should see pop up. It asks, how often do you engage with the members of your apprenticeship partnership? For example, general communications, whether via email or what have you, project updates, what's going on? What's the current progress? Where do things stand? Following up, whether that's from meetings you're having or etc., convening actual meetings with everybody, planning together, etc. How often is that happening? Weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, or not quite yet? Let us know. This helps us inform the ways that we talk to you in bi-monthly progress meetings. It helps us know what if we need to make a best practice around how to engage apprenticeship partnership members or childcare employers. So this is really helping us build and individualize the TA we can provide to you.
Misty, because there's 3 of us from Childcare Network here, do you want us just to fill it out once?
You guys can all just fill it out. That's okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you for asking, Sebastian. We got 13 out of 15 of you who have participated so far. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds so we can maybe get the last 2 of you in. Okay, I'm not seeing any movement, so I'm going to end the poll and launch the results. Here we go. It looks like a good majority are on a monthly update basis with however you're choosing to convene or engage your partnership. Then there's some bi-monthly and quarterly, and then one person saying not quite yet. So Nicole, do you want to take us, and Christina, take us to the Menti and dig in a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all. Christine, you want to pull up the Menti? All right. So you guys had 20 minutes to discuss strategies in place for ongoing communication, project updates, ongoing feedback from members of the apprenticeship partnership. And we've got 2 responses here. We had 6 groups, so hopefully we get some more responses while we debrief on these. But who would like to go first as to who's shared out so far?
I'm happy to go first. Mine's the first one on there. So we each had a variety of different strategies for ongoing communication. We talked about having apprenticeship 101 style meetings, especially in the beginning, where basically like you can have interested providers who might become part of this apprenticeship partnership, learn about the different ways that they can set up wraps. We also talked about, combining communication and project updates with regional planning grants that are occurring in those regions, because the apprenticeship model is something that could be of great interest because it's very innovative. It's something that like appeals to both, a sort of like more business-minded community and the early childhood community, and maybe they can help each other understand how apprenticeships tend to work. So that was really good. And we also talked about one thing we do at Childcare Network are one-on-one meetings because we are able to have a apprenticeship coordinator who keeps everything churning over by basically being the communicator between the director, apprentice, and mentor. And that check-in is really helpful as well.
Thank you, Sebastian. All right, work hands and Apprenticeship. Whose group was that, and who's reporting out?
My group. I had Wanda and Heidi and April in my group, and Wanda and Heidi use WorkHands, and April uses Apprenticescope, and apparently both of those apps have, in addition to tracking, also have communication supports. And so both of their groups use that to communicate with employers, as well as with the participants. And then we all use emails and phone calls as needed. And I learned that the community colleges that Wanda and Heidi are working with tend to be the ones initiating communication and providing updates to Michigan Works rather than them needing to reach out to the community colleges, which is lovely. And then we're all gathering feedback during our check-ins, and Heidi has recently implemented a beginning, middle, and end survey system to gather feedback and information throughout their program.
Thank you, Bonnie. Yeah, those ongoing feedback loops are so important. And then also anytime you can share out like how we have, you know, these are the collective responses, or this is what we've gathered from you. Does that represent you? You know, it helps them to have buy-in to the process, which is important in that and feeling belonged and part of the partnership. All right, so we have somebody who's talking about being in the design stage.
Hello, that is me. I love my group. I was blessed to be with Dick, Carla, and Evelyn, who are very knowledgeable, and they're in the stage up or scale up, excuse me, aspect. So I got to pick their brains, and they. So for me, with this question, which they're past, they've got a good system rolling, and so I'm just making notes and learning. But you know, I have so much excitement on the other end of the phones when I make these cold calls and I let them know what's going on out there. I've realized that emails is not the way to go. The childcare centers, they're already blown up with a whole bunch of stuff, and that'll just go to the junk box. But then when you talk person to person, they're just excited. And so the funds that I've been able to get from the agency, also the training providers, I mentioned I reached out to Miss Laird with the Teach Scholarship, and so we'll be having a huge roundtable event with resource providers, schools, and the childcare centers, and she's going to bring out a counterpart who's just, I guess, a plethora of resources. So for me, it's just the excitement, and the childcare centers and providers who are like, this is so great that this is finally happening. People are aware of what's going on, because I think, you know, they feel forgotten about, and rightly so, with the constant mantra of underpaid and overworked. So yeah, it's great to be in this role and let them know we hear you, we want to provide these resources and get back to you. And then of course, you know, the apprenticeship aspect, but like I mentioned before, I do kind of piggyback that with funds and resources just to help with the buy-in, because right when you mention apprenticeship for an employer or a busy director or however you want to title it, they're like, oh, paperwork, a process to go through, I already have licensing to deal with. So the funding and the resources has been a huge support for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you hit the nail on the head with that. You know, us ECE people are taught that at the foundation of the work that we do, it's about relationships and those connections and how valuable that is. So they're going to be coming at anything you give them from that direction. So the fact that you're like, I'm going to pick up the phone instead of shoot an email, just kind of, it speaks to where they're coming from. And so I think that's spot on there. Thank you so much for sharing. We had a few other groups. Does anybody else want to share out, or we feel good here? All right. Well, as always, the information that we collect from you, we will make sure that we share back out with you. And again, I just want to highlight that You all have each other's contact information, but you can always connect with folks at ECIC too. If any of these ideas are kind of bringing up questions or like, how would that work? Or who should I connect with on this? We definitely want to help that there. So, okay, so we will move into the next part of our agenda and I will pass it over to Christina.
Thank you, Nicole. So before we close out for the day, thank you all for joining. I just want to go over just a couple of reminders and things that are kind of quickly approaching, considering we're almost through January already, which is crazy. But from today, just anything that was shared on the mentee boards, we'll create a PDF and I'll send that out in our follow-up. We do want to make note that we do have another monthly office hours scheduled for this month. These are completely optional. I understand that you guys had one earlier in the month that some of you did participate in. We're going to keep this on the calendar. So if anybody does have any questions from either today's learning community or just questions in general, you are more than welcome to come to those office hours. We will be there. If nobody shows up in the first 15 minutes or so, we'll probably leave. But just wanted to put out there that we're going to hold that on the calendar still. I am going to place in the chat here shortly just a quick little survey just to fill out today regarding any feedback for today's learning community. If there's anything you guys want to see going forward that we can make changes to, we greatly appreciate any suggestions. And then just a couple of key things. I wanted to talk about spending reports. So the next one is due at the end of the month on January 31st. If you are running into any issues or need any type of support for these, please reach out to anybody on our team. We're happy to help you with this. We also have narrative reports coming due soon. The 6-month narrative reports are due on February 1st for all grantees, with the exception of Steepletown Neighborhood Services and Southwest CCR, who are funded on a separate timeline. However, the 12-month narrative reports for Steepletown and Southwest are due on February 29th, so a little bit past this. And then finally, the last thing I just want to talk about is, so you guys all noticed that for this peer learning community, we did have to kind of change things and reschedule it. We heard during the office hours a lot of feedback that that Tuesday timeframe isn't really working so well for most. We understand you need to kind of get off and attend some statewide meetings. So going forward, we're going to go ahead and keep the peer learning community on the 3rd Thursday of the month at 1 p.m. If you have any feedback in regards to it, again, please feel free to reach out to us. And I did just want to make note that just as part of the grant requirement, we do require that somebody from each grantee organization have somebody present during these meetings. If it can't be yourself, we just kindly ask that maybe you have somebody fill in for you, or, you know, if you want to, I don't know, anybody really that could be there to take notes. You will always have access to the recording, but we just want to make sure that everybody is actively participating, just since it is one of the requirements. So we appreciate it. Other than that, I think that's about it, unless anyone else on the innovation team has anything else to share. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Great conversations, and we look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Enjoy. Stay warm.
Nice seeing you all.
You too.
Thank you.